In this video, we're going to talk about how you, as a coach or a parent, can help young athletes manage mistakes. Hey there, I'm Eli Straw, mental performance coach and the founder of SuccessStartsWithin.com. When young athletes are struggling to manage mistakes, so they get very upset after a mistake, this can be frustrating because you know how negative that's going to be on their performance, but also you know how much that's hurting them. And when an athlete keeps getting upset and upset and upset, and their reaction is so negative, a lot of times what can happen is that becomes something that's very difficult for them to deal with, and sometimes they think about quitting their sport. So it's very important, especially at an early age, that athletes develop this understanding and the ability to better manage mistakes. Now, we're not talking about not feeling upset at all, because that's natural. When an athlete makes a mistake, the reason they get upset is because they didn't want to make the mistake, but when we dig a little bit deeper, we find that the true reason is that they don't want to make the mistake again. Of course, there's embarrassment there, and there's the anger and the frustration in making the mistake. But when push comes to shove, it's about feeling like if I get upset, I'm not going to make the mistake again. So what we have to do is work with a young athlete to realize that getting upset is not the best way to not make the mistake again. But we have to be careful not to say that you should never get upset. Because that initial feeling of frustration and maybe a little disappointment, that's natural. And so we're not necessarily going to try to change that, because what can happen for young athletes is that if you tell them they can't feel upset at all, number one, as soon as they feel upset, they're going to feel like they failed. Number two, they can feel like that means they can't care. And in order for them to be able to manage mistakes, they can't care about their performance, which to them is something they don't want to do, because of course they care about their performance. So what we're actually trying to do is work on what happens immediately after they feel a little bit of that frustration and they feel themselves beginning to get upset. It's that moment where they really need to learn how to manage themselves. So this is a two-part strategy that you can use. It's what I use with the young athletes that I work with in mental performance coaching. The first part of the strategy is something that the young athlete can use immediately following the mistake. What this is going to be is a thought-stopping phrase. Their thought-stopping phrase needs to get them to stop thinking about the mistake, help calm themselves down, and then get them refocused on the next play. Because when an athlete is not getting upset after a mistake, what happens is their mind is thinking about what's happening next. So they've kind of moved forward. When they are getting upset about a mistake, so they can't let it go, it's because they're stuck in the past. So we want to get them to take their attention off of the mistake, calm themselves down a little bit, and then get refocused on the next play. Now, a thought-stopping phrase works by coming up with a very simple statement that the young athlete can say to themselves in those moments, just to remind them of how they want to respond. One that I found success with that works really well is take a breath, let it go, refocus. They take a breath, helps them kind of calm themselves down and just really center themselves in the present moment. They say let it go to tell themselves and remind themselves, let's let go of what just happened, and then they remind themselves to refocus on the next play. Now, with this thought-stopping phrase, it's not at all going to be easy for the young athlete to remember in the moment, which is why it's very important that they begin repeating this to themselves on a daily basis. They can just read it to themselves before they go to sleep every night. What that does is it helps them memorize it. And then, whenever they're in a game or a practice and they make a mistake, they're not going to be perfect, so you have to really have patience with them and really help them understand that this is a process, because they're not going to be perfect at all. And in fact, the intent in the beginning is what matters the most. They need to have the intent to try to manage a mistake a little bit better. The more they have that intent, the easier it's going to be for them to remember that phrase, and then the better they're going to be able to manage a mistake, the more they actually apply that phrase in that specific situation. The second part of the strategy involves a way that you can help them learn how to kind of change the way that they see mistakes. So start seeing mistakes more as a learning experience rather than something that means that they're not good enough. And what you can do is after every practice and game, you can start changing the way that you all talk and evaluate their performance. And to make things very simple, what you can do is just focus on two questions. The first question is, what did you do well today? This question provides them with the opportunity to first see the things that they did well. And as an athlete gets older, if they're dealing with perfectionism, this formed because they never focused on what they did well and they were always immediately going to the things that they did wrong. So by helping your young athlete first pick out what they did well, that is a very, very good skill for them to learn. But on top of that, it's also going to boost their confidence because they're saying, okay, every single day, I'm giving myself the opportunity to see myself as successful. Then the second question you can ask them is, where can you improve today, right? What parts of your game can you improve upon? The reason you want to ask them that is because that's going to help them finally be able to look at those mistakes. But they're not looking at the mistakes and tearing themselves down. They start to see that, okay, a mistake is a learning experience. Yeah, I made this mistake today, but now I can improve on that. I can improve moving forward, and I can actually get better rather than tearing myself down. So that's a little bit more of a long-term approach. But right now, in the moment, one of the best ways to help them immediately manage these mistakes is putting that thought-stopping phrase into practice. Now, if you're interested in a little bit more of an in-depth approach to helping your young athlete manage mistakes, I offer one-on-one mental performance coaching for young athletes. In this one-on-one mental performance coaching program, what we're going to do is first take an assessment to really identify what their current strengths and challenges are. Then we have weekly virtual coaching sessions where we're going to work through these challenges and they're going to learn some mental training tools and techniques that they can use. So if you're interested in learning more about one-on-one mental performance coaching, I put a link to it in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I wish you the best of success in all that you do. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. We put out new videos each week on sports psychology and mental training. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you're interested in learning more about one-on-one mental performance coaching, head over to successstartswithin.com.